Recording? Yes. You coming through, Jenkins? I said yes. You better watch your mouth. We have to do this again because of you. Sorry, sir. If this video gets 5 likes, I will beat Jenkins with a spud wrench. Welcome back to Truckerman Reads. I am Graham. I am a reader and a driver. I've been both for a while. This is my review of American Paladin Dust Sacrifice by Larry Correia, illustrated by Alex Wisner. Some of you are asking, Graham, how are you reviewing this book? It's not even out yet. The Kickstarter is still live. And I will say, by the kindness of strangers. Ignore that. I whacked the bejeebers out of my finger today. I'm not going emo. I'm having a day. But the day was made better by the fact that I got to read an advanced copy of this book with much thanks to ARC Press. I'm hardly the first YouTuber to do an advanced reading of this one. Nathaniel Stottlemyre beat me to it by a few days. He did a review earlier this week. You can check the description for a link to his if you're curious. They didn't put any hard limitations on what I can say and can show, but I'm going to assume that I shouldn't show more than what they've already revealed as far as the artwork goes. And obviously, I'm not going to give away the whole plot or anything beyond just saying what the generalities are of it. Main character is a guy named Mike Spears. He's a blue-collar dude. He's got some familiarity with the supernatural. Somebody needs some help. He knows what to do. There's a monster at the core of it. He's got to chase him down, do some cool stuff to handle the situation. And then you see how the story resolves from there. This was my first taste of any kind of story with the Mike Spears character, beyond what ARC Press and what Larry Correia have mentioned about him. And I just found it to be a very familiar, but at the same time, fresh take on what Larry Correia's strengths are as a writer. If you're familiar with Brandon Sanderson, 2 of his earliest works, his debut novel was Elantris, and then a few years later he released another book called Warbreaker, which are very arguably 2 different ways to tackle the same subject. There's a fantasy world with resurrected and empowered gods living amongst mortals. In the case of Elantris, that was a story about the magic going wrong, and instead of turning people into gods, it turned them into more or less zombies. Whereas with Warbreaker, the magic worked, but there was somebody who was manipulating it and tweaking it and stuff. If you see the similar elements overlapping, but you see the different directions in which the story goes, you get what I'm talking about. I mention that because this American Paladin series has some similarities to Larry's flagship series, Monster Hunter International. The big difference is that while there are supernatural entities out there, they aren't the familiar horror movie villains, at least not so far, like vampires and werewolves and stuff. This is more otherworldly, kind of tied to old mythology, but extra-dimensional and stuff, we'll say. The other big difference is that there aren't private monster hunter companies, at least not so far, once again, going after these entities. It's just Mike. He's just a guy who does things that others can't or won't do. Larry and ARC Press both have implied that as the series goes on, Mike will develop a network of like-minded and like-abled people to go after these monsters. But for now, it's just him. And if I understand the chronology right, Dust Sacrifice happens after the events of the main American Paladin novel, which is coming out next summer. So, spoiler alert, we know at least that Mike doesn't die. The artwork is what's really the central feature of this story. And this is where I want to kind of backdoor a review of Always with Honor, Chapter 1, put out by Passage Publishing, but illustrated by Alex Wisner, who's also doing the art for Dust Sacrifice. You've seen some sample images of the graphic novel, but I wanted to help you kind of get a better appreciation for Alex's style of art. It is very sharp, it is very crisp, it is very detailed. He's got a very adept hand with the cross-hatching, with the stipping, with the various effects that show texture and depth and perspective. He's also very good at things like weather. You see there, this takes place in Russia. This is a nonfiction adaptation. I will say that images like this are a little bit more similar to the Dust Sacrifice book, which is a lot more kinetic. There aren't so many establishing shots. This is a story that moves a lot more quickly. Here in in Always with Honor, you also get a shot of Gavrilo Princip and Franz Ferdinand and all of that. You get to see the impact that that's going to have and how it starts World War I. But yeah, you see what his style is like, how visually compelling it is, and how it keeps demanding that you turn the page and turn the page and turn the page. This was a very strong installment in what is going to be, I don't know how many volumes long series of Always with Honor. I was able to back this one earlier this year, and after having read the full book, I found this to be a very faithful and, again, very engaging adaptation, as well as a very strong introduction into Alex Wisner's art. This is not a very thick graphic novel. The graphic novel for Dust Sacrifice was about 75 pages, so I'm going to assume it'll be around this size, and that's the art that you can expect from it. But instead of telling the story of a Russian general during the Bolshevik Revolution and into World War I, you'll instead get a look at this new series from Larry Correia. Content warning on Dust Sacrifice. There's a couple of F-bombs. There's some other language in there. It's really par for the course for the other contemporary fantasy works that Correia has written. And after having gotten to read this arc, like I'm more and more stoked to have the physical copy in my hands. The Kickstarter is still going on. It launched a week ago. In fact, it launched the day right before Charlie Kirk was assassinated. And in releases that ARC and that Correia have both put out, they said that obviously and understandably, put a damper on the enthusiasm after the first day of the campaign. Crowdfunding tends to go that way anyhow, where the biggest surges that you'll get are right when the campaign starts and right when it concludes. So like those first couple of days and those last couple of days, and then you get into the middle of the campaign and it'll kind of build at a slower rate. Right now, well, last I checked it was around $215,000. The initial target amount was like $5,000. They blew through that in like 2 seconds. I was part of that effort. But it was technically on track to get to around $1 million. Personally, I think it'll definitely clear $500,000. It'll probably even get close to 3/4. It's not like it would utterly shock me if it got to $1 million. I would be very excited if it did. This has more to do with the overall mission of ARC Press than just this book in general. Because it is the publisher's debut production, a strong financial success right out the gate will bode well for what they can do with their forthcoming projects. This hat that I'm wearing right now, it's a little bit gritty and grimy. I've had it for 7 years or so, and I've done some trucking and some labor adventures in it. This was a piece of merch that Dave Butler put out for his Witchy Eye book. The series started in 2017. He's since released 4 books in it. It's one of my favorite series, and I think it is criminally underrated. It's a complete monument to not only the man's creative talent, but his intellect as well. And the fact that he is now one of the chief acquisitions editors and whatever other titles that he's carrying over at ARC, like he's one of the head honchos over there, I think that bodes well for the quality of work that they're looking for. I've also enjoyed watching their channel throughout this year, not just the banter between David Butler and David Afsharirad, but also the interviews that they've had with Larry Correia, with Travis Corcoran, with Tony Daniel, who I had heard of him before, but I'd never actually listened to an interview with him. Fascinating mind, incredible life experience. The other name that I just mentioned, Travis Corcoran, is another author who has a title under contract with ARC that I'm very excited about. I've read other books by Travis, and I'm going to be doing other videos about those in the future. His is about a terraformed and somewhat established Mars that wants to kind of secede from the governmental powers of the Earth, but Earth says, hey, we want to hold on to you. We don't want you to secede. We don't want you to become your own thing. And it's kind of like the Texas Revolution in space. And ARC Press's channel, Go for Wood Lounge, has an interview with Travis Corcoran where they talk about that. Fascinating writer, fascinating mind. The dude is an Ivy League educated engineer who also happens to be a state rep in New Hampshire, and he's a homesteader. I mean, I'm wearing this grimy hat. He wears a lot of hats. Smart dude. I like their mission. I like the little samples of their work that I've been kind of teased with so far, and now that I have finally gotten to read one of their full productions and see the artwork, like, again, I'm all in on the creative productions that they're putting out, and I really want this one to continue to be a success. So check out the Kickstarter campaign. If you back it and you get the graphic novel, that one is confirmed to be it's done and it'll ship in time for Christmas. And then the full American Paladin novel, if you back the campaign, from what I understand, don't quote me on this, double check this, but I believe that if you back the campaign, you'll get the book in May, and then it hits the general public and shelves and stuff in June of 2026. So you'll get the book a little bit sooner if you back it now. So check all that out below. Like I said, Nathaniel Stottlemyre's review of Dust Sacrifice, the Kickstarter, and the link to Gopherwood Lounge. Let me know what you guys think. Till next time, drive safe. See you out there.